So this is a bi-weekly meeting of the Public Dock Advisory Committee for LICA, and it is Tuesday, November 14th at 8 o'clock. And I'll go ahead and share the my screen so that we can look at the agenda, and I just start typing into the minutes as soon as we get rolling so that
Roger won't be here. He sent, I have a long scheduled early dentist appointment, Roger.
Got it. Know that feeling. Okay. So let me just. Okay. So, and then we'll have Wayne. So Wayne, I had us kicking off by having you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then
yeah, okay, I'm here. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I've been interested in what you've been doing for a long time, and I find myself at a point where I think I can help or I can provide some additional support if I can fit in any way. And I mean just anyway, I mean just if you need small tasks or anything like that. So I've been working at the Whatcom Conservation District for well over 20 years, currently last 20 some years or last 15 years in stream restoration type of projects. But I do have a lot of experience working with cultural resource type stuff, creating maps. So besides just mundane tasks that I'd be happy to help with, if there's anything else that I could help provide, I'd surely like to support your effort. And I greatly appreciate everything that you folks have been doing so far. So I guess I'll leave it at that. And I'm close to retirement, so once I retire, I'm going to have a lot more time to get involved in island activities and help out where I can.
Yeah, Wayne, do you know everybody on the committee?
Yeah, I recognize faces, and boy, Chris, you got a nice office. Yeah, I think if we haven't met, we've met talking on the phone or most people in person. So yeah, Mary, I know you were a good friend of my mother's, and she's doing okay. And I'll send you her greetings.
Okay, send her mine too, please.
Okay, I will. Yep.
yeah. Well, that's great. And the other thing that Wayne, and is it? I was just trying to look up your information. Is it one?
Oh, wow. Am I losing? Can
You're
you still hear me?
kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're cut out for me. I didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. I was just asking. Want to make sure I spelled your name correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
How you pronounce it?
Chaudière.
Chaudière. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And Wayne also shared with me that he has access through work. They're able to use their GIS mapping for personal use. So that will be helpful if there's any, cost and time savings for us to manage maps in addition to our contractors who will be producing maps.
Yeah, and it could be real simple, just like an area map, a vicinity map, or even, something more detailed. So feel free to tap into that if you just need one more document, one more for any kind of something that shows a map and what's going on. Yep.
That's great.
Thank you.
Great. And then I also wanted to, let's see. So I talked with Roger. Roger was a long-term professor at, I know it's in Colorado, and don't remember now if it's University of or which Colorado universities, but he's retired now, just moved to the island this summer, and Mary met him at one of the LICA open meetings this summer, and he'd expressed interest. He and his wife live on not quite Beach Road, Sea Crest, right before the Signed For Scenic Estates. So they're not in Scenic Estates, but on the water side, right there. And so, and a lot of what he and I talked about, he's very familiar with grant management. And we talked some also about potentially whether any of our partners will have project management software that we can kind of piggyback on to help keep track of all of the tasks, subtasks, subtasks. And so that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, yeah, we met him on the first day that he moved here. He and his wife had just moved to the island, and they came to a Leica thing, and that was also the time that we announced that we had got the grant.
Oh, right.
It was back in May. And so I think it's great that he just is hopping on and getting involved, just kind of like you did, Lane.
Yeah. Wayne and I had been here, I think, 2 weeks when I joined the committee. and it was sort of along the lines of, I live here and we don't have a public dock. No, I had not investigated that. And while we don't have a boat, it was one of those, I'm not going to call it an amenity. I'm going to call it part of the infrastructure that I just thought there probably was one. Okay, real quick, Mary, while I have my screen up. So you leave town when?
I will be leaving town probably on the 30th of November. And coming back in sometime in the first week of January. That's just a completely weather dependent thing, because we're driving up and we'll look for a weather window after the 1st of January and then head home.
Right, and I tomorrow I return on December 20th, I think it is. Okay, again, both available for the
yes,
but
yeah,
I was on the East Coast, so my timing, I won't plan to join the 7 p.m. meeting. Tell you that.
No, I think we will just, I would like to keep with the morning meetings if it's at all possible. Does that work for everybody? Or Chris?
Yep, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Wayne? Is this early?
Yeah, no, I'm an early person. I've been in my office since 6:30 this morning, but I just wanted to let everybody know that I do have a staff meeting today at 9 o'clock. So hopefully we
Okay.
get through most of the agenda by then, but I'll have to cut out at 9.
That's
And
good.
that's that is, what is it? It's like the second Tuesday of every month I have a staff meeting. So it's only the once a month. So if you have a second meeting, it wouldn't interfere at all.
Okay.
So let us talk about that, because what we actually agreed on was the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays. And Mary, they got onto the schedule as every other, which is slightly different. Now,
Okay.
I found remembering 1st and 3rd easier. We had that 3rd meeting in October because we needed it, and that put us onto a sort of an off schedule.
Okay.
What do people think? Is there a feeling one way or the other?
1st and 3rd works better for me.
It's fine with me.
1st and 3rd, great.
Okay, so we'll say 1st and 3rd, and then we'll have that additional as needed.
Okay.
But on the calendar, and now Mary, I didn't know, I realized this because I started putting these onto the community calendar, then realized that I wanted to make sure people were agreed, because this week is of course a second Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stick with that, and then Mary, if you can figure out on Zoom how to make that
this link is open and we can have a meeting at any time using this link.
Okay, so it's just because you manage the invites.
Yeah,
we can't move those around. So for us,
I can change the invites to be specific dates. So
thank you. Okay. So I'm still sharing and I'm bouncing around here a little bit. Okay, super. People ready to proceed. Chris, I did not know if you had any other things that had gone on with the Doc, the location analysis that you wanted to.
Yeah, just a quick update. I've made contact with multiple folks. Only 2 are working on providing something at this point. I've got some folks that haven't returned calls and have flat out said no. So we're down to 2 other people. I'm still trying to recruit more who are willing to do site analysis. So
Perfect. Yeah. So, and I may have told you, Wayne. So we're just looking at getting, and I'm going to say informal in the sense that we did not have a task on the engineering RFQ for them to analyze potential sites, because seriously, the grant was for one site. It was the only site after 2 years that we considered feasible. But the feasibility study, we had a number, particularly of the neighbors, who have said, well, yeah, we would like a dock, but just not there. And so Chris embarked on an effort to recruit just knowledgeable islanders who are boaters, who lived here a while, who are familiar with the idea of using the dock for emergency access, urgent access, recreational access. And so they're going around the island and just doing in essence, kind of a scorecard or just a summary of, here are other sites on the island. And there's the reasons they reasons they would or would not work. And no site is ideal, as you can imagine. Certainly the site we have thought was the most feasible, it does not get an A grade, particularly because of parking and, safe pullout and pedestrian access. So at the end of this, we'll have something to just provide, especially to Parks and Recreation, to say, hey, yours was not the only site that we considered, but in terms of feasibility, it was the highest rated site. So Wayne, if you have any time you want to help Chris out with that, let him know. That would be great.
Yeah, Chris, just let me know if there's anything I can help you with.
Yeah. It's always good to, and in some cases it's more of a sort of a narrative. In other cases, it comes down to just, here are the key factors that we are comparing them against. Obviously, most of them are on private property. Pretty big deterrent right there. Okay. Great. So I'll move on to the next topic, which is the status of the contract itself, and it is signed. I'll provide a link. One of our primary reasons to meet today is because we need to revise the milestones, because the milestones that are currently in the contract were based on that it started a while ago. In other words, it started before the contract was signed. And while we could do informal work, we had said from the beginning, we could not hire. We could not even put out an RFQ for people if we did not have a signed contract. And that always made sense to RCO. They understood. In fact, they're the ones who said to me, you probably can't really do any work until you have a contract signed. And I was like, yes, that we can't. We don't have nonprofit. Yeah, we don't have a way to do that. So I talked yesterday, and we have had discussions with our RCO grant manager, who assured us that this you're seeing on the screen was the the timeline that came with the contract. And you can see that we have a draft due, within a month. But the seeing is how we've not on the 10th. This obviously we passed the 25th of October. We don't have our consultants hired. So she assured us that is common to revise the milestones. And I talked with her yesterday and said we are working on it and we'll like to send you another one. She said that's great. I also clarified, there's a line item here, the one that would be due the 15th, that says draft design to RCO. And we talked before about the fact that they are used to building things. So in their world, if they said to an engineer, construction firm, okay, we want 30% drawings, everybody would agree, we know what that is. But for a feasibility study, we wanted to confirm that their understanding, our understanding would make sense with what RCO would expect. And it's what one of the engineering firms said, and I think what I'd said in the original, which was, well, surely this is how we're going to go about this. That is the draft design. What is the plan for outreach strategy? What is the timeline? What are we, how are we going to go about this? And Andrea agrees that that's fine. So what we'll want from our partners is basically based on the contract and discussion with them, a pretty brief document that just says, okay, here's the plan. So that makes sense to everybody?
Yes.
And we just have to clarify contents of that when we get to the contract, because this is a deliverable straight to RCO. So we want to make absolute positive sure that we have in the contract that deliverable that the consultant provides to us that we know is to be turned over to RCO without further work.
Yeah, yeah, and that is, in your revised, so keep going through this,
Yeah. So we'll go on down. So from the RFQs, this is what we had told them in the RFQs. So we want to be close to this. We don't want to suddenly have a big gap here, because when we went through the RFQ process, we agreed this was viable. Now, one of the engineering firm that helped us to work on this is KPFF, and they suggested for that, what they call the public and agency engagement plan from them, from that task, would be 4 weeks after project start. So given that they thought that was realistic, we basically used that as kind of our start. So whenever the project start is, 4 weeks later, we need to be ready with a design plan. Now, the good news is that come to the preferred alternative, by April, we've caught up with the original milestones from RCO. In part because our design phase was just much shorter than what in their timeline, they were allowing, I think, something like 12 weeks. So if it's really 4 weeks because we're feasibility study, then that caught us up quite a bit. There wasn't much change for the cultural resources because they have a pretty short timeline of how long it takes them. And the marine survey there is no line item in RCO's milestones except for the one in I think July or August that just says marine survey is done. So this is up to us, but the deadline here and the deadline for cultural resources, both of those we put in the middle of March, because the point of both of those studies is to inform the engineers. Now, I assume they're going to start work earlier than that. I don't think on March, well, I'm positive, on March 15th, they're not going to start work. They're going to have begun the work, and they'll already be engaged with the engineers of, okay, now make sure we know from you what you need from us, and we can be on that timeline. So by the middle of March, we can pretty reliably tell the engineers, especially for the eelgrass, what is the basic outline of that eelgrass? What's its, I guess what you want to say, density or how much is there and where is it? And they should be able to do that in the dive itself in just 1 day. And then they work on the maps and the getting the data into a form that they can turn over to us. Okay, so that's kind of how we worked backwards into the milestones. Some billing, I did talk to Andrea about us. Probably I would change this from the 1st to the 15th because we'll want to put in, we haven't spent much money. We spent a little money in advertising. And I think it'd be good for us to practice putting in some invoices and getting some money. Okay, we'll talk later a little bit more about money. Let's see. So for the consultant hired by the middle of December was based on we closed the RFQ on the 27th. So this gives us another 2.5 weeks to have selected and negotiated contractor, the 3 contractors. Now, one engineering firm got back to me and asked if they could do a team. So in fact, that would actually be one contract with 3 tasks as opposed to 3 contracts. And I talked to Parks and Recreation about it, talked to several others, and everyone said, hey, I would see no problem with that. And it would actually be nice to have sort of one general contractor manage all of it, but I'm not sure how that will play out. Okay, so everybody feel like by middle of December, that will work?
Yes, the one thing that will be a important thing is I think that we need to begin thinking about what our contract will look like.
Yes, and that's a matter, that's a point, bullet point later, Mary. Yes, we want to talk about that. So there's some getting ready we can do on our part, but someone needs to, yeah, be rolling. And I didn't. I think I was going to try to put the task into a sample contract. I didn't get a chance to do that. Okay, so then, so to tell you the truth, I think that start date is something like that end of the first week of January. I don't see anyone starting work right before the holidays. And if we assume that that really did work and that they then needed 4 weeks, I would say if we ask them to give it to us at 6 weeks, then it's actually due to RCO at the progress report. Hang on a second, RCO. Let me think here. What did I say here? This would be 6 weeks. So then, let me see if I got this right. Hang on. Originally it was mid-January, and now we have it at I say that
Mid-February.
right. So from this is RCO. Okay, these are RCO. Okay, so
Mhm.
the contractor, so the engineer due date, okay, would still be like 2/2. All right,
Okay,
the RCO due date. So I'll label these so we don't get these confused. And when I give it to them, I won't do it this way. But RCO, if we tell RCO we should have it to them by the 15th, we'll tell engineers that we need it from them, that basically they have all of January to work on it, and that then we would be looking for it first week in February and giving it to RCO the second week in February. That makes sense to people?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so it just concerns me. I don't exactly know what happens between us getting the report and us turning it over to RCO, but I didn't want it to be at the same time. I assume there's something we want to do with it.
Yeah, I think that we would want to at least have a chance to review it.
Get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let Park and Rec look at it and see if they have any concerns or anything, and then be able to at least talk to the engineer back or to see if just, I just think it's important for us to have a chance to look at it and our partner to look at it.
Yeah. I just realized we should make sure we provide for Parks and Recreation a review schedule.
Mhm.
Need time from them right here. The engineer due date.
Yes.
So, right.
Yeah, and we should give them our tentative schedule so they can build time in with Rod or Bennett to get stuff going. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, and then we'll just have to figure out in the contract what we need. I'm just guessing a brief narrative from the other 2 consultants about marine survey and the I mean, we give RCO one report, but we would need input from the other two.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe
that would
once a
just be
month.
like what their time frame is and stuff like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So just in the contract, we make sure we have which is fine, and then add notes, marine and cultural narrative, something like that, so that we know in the contract that we're expecting something from them also on 222.
Mhm.
What's the date? Help me look at this calendar. Do you guys realize that without me really thinking about that hard, the due date for the RFQs was actually a Sunday. This is a Friday. Does Friday seem okay for deliverables?
That sounds great.
And the fifth, what's the 15th? The 15th is a Thursday. Then we have a progress report, and they had it as 2 weeks after this draft design was due. So I put ours 2 weeks after the draft design was due, and I don't see any reason that we wouldn't be able to do that. It is a very brief report. It's actually just Wayne, have you ever used Prism? Did you ever have any RCO money?
Oh, but I just take this chance to ask a quick question. So the draft design, is that flexible enough that it could be amended to, suppose I know for riparian, I don't know for marine so much, but the study, the cultural resource and the eelgrass, I suspect could impact the actual design, or it could in a riparian type of situation. So, I mean, those all kind of coincide. You're getting those reports kind of all at the same time, and that may be more of the final project design and implementation. But in any case, I would imagine that you could build a dock that would be more eelgrass friendly. I'm just thinking that, but I don't know if that's true or not.
It is true. It is true. So the 60%, which basically maps to our preferred design. This is the original one. This is the conceptual designs. And so the conceptual designs aren't due until April 15th. So that as we have the cultural resources and the marine surveyors working, they are talking with their engineers about, here's what we found so far. So this, the public and agency engagement design is really about how are we going to go about this project. So there won't be, so it won't have any design. There won't be any designing done yet.
Yeah, it allows for that flexibility
Yes.
to address the concerns for the
Yes.
marine and the cultural resources. Okay, that's what I assume.
You're right, and that's what
Yep.
when we couldn't do the couldn't get this kicked off quite as soon, because originally I said, oh, I cultural resources could just be done in December, and I don't know, Wayne, maybe they'll just be like, hey, we're doing it next week and it's the end of December and we're fine with that, and be like, whoop whoop, go for it. I'm just assuming almost worst case scenario. So assuming they don't get it started till January, and assuming the dive, the weather for the dive is the big, Mary tells me, Chris, hopefully you also agree, that there will be some window in January and February for them to have a dive day.
Yeah, no, you can dive in the winter here, and that's actually some of the best diving as far as water clarity sometimes, as long as there hasn't been a lot of huge amounts of rain and river runoff. But that's been my experience as a diver for many years.
I second that, Mary.
And I mean, that's what the RFP says. So if someone says I can't do it, then would not respond, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So again, so the report would be due to LICA for the cultural resources by the middle of March. And again, the design plan itself is due then a month later. So we still have a month where they're still working on the design and making sure they. I mean, you know, obviously there's always some possibility the cultural resources study would find something that actually we had to stop for a bit and rework everything. And I mean, that let's assume we're not going to. We realize it could happen, but assuming everything just went forward, this is the timeline.
Yeah, the one real thing that I have a little concern about is that when the cultural resources folks tagged the beach store as a historical building, I just think that will be something that needs to be addressed. So, and I hope there's no hiccups along the way. But
right.
it.
I talked with at least one of the architectural resource people and they have a historic architect on staff. This is the folks of Drayton. And yes, Wayne, Garth said to give you his best. So we talked to him about this because they've been the ones who have given us most insight into what should we include as budgets go and such. And they do plan to submit a response to our RFQ. And he immediately said, yes, it is what, as the previous owners had suggested, it is an iconic combination of having the dock and the building, the store there, and having had a very large dock there for many, many years. He says his historian will have no trouble building a story that shows why it would be quite appropriate.
And Lane, and in our phone conversation a while ago, I mentioned that one of the things that we could do without private consultation, culture resource, Garth and his outfit, is to actually initiate the consultation letters, and that's with the DHAP. And it may be that they get back to us. DHAP gets back to it, Department of Historic Preservation in Olympia, and they would get back to us and say, "Look, the store, you're not going to impact it. It's not an issue," and it just eliminates it. It takes it off of the list. So if you're not going to impact that structure in any way, there's no reason to do any kind of an extensive study in that area.
Okay, great. So we will, I'll add that note to the.
So sending out those pre-consult, and that the letters go to the DHAP and the 2 tribes. Okay. And I suspect because it's beach and Lummi area that you are going to get the tribe saying, no, we want a further study. And that's where, because you can actually get responses that say, hey, we don't need a study. You don't even need to go to that next step. But in this case, since it's a beach and the 2 tribes are probably going to say, yes, we would like to have a study done.
I get it. Yeah. Okay, great. So let me put on my calendar. I'm just staring into
and what can result also is, okay, so there's some unknowns, and during the construction, they may actually require certain things, such as having a trained person on site during the construction activities, watching for something that might be an indication. So that could add to the whole project costs and part of the construction plan is to have that person on site.
Okay. I'll just make that note to all the engineers and cultural resources may include that as their guidance in the report to us. Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay. And we won't have time today to talk about consultants with the tribal nations, but we need to get that onto the agenda within the next couple of weeks so that as we're rolling along, we are beginning that also. Let's see. Okay. So then the next deadline is the middle of March for us to get the 60% plans. And for us, that was these are the conceptual preliminary design alternatives. And the contract has preliminary design alternatives, and we call it draft conceptual designs. And we are still we haven't chosen a preferred design. the preferred design is what would come out here in the end of a middle of August. So they will have, let me scroll back up to the engineers and show the sort of timeline for the design aspects. So we'll be having meetings by mid-April. Then there will be a preferred alternative selected here. So that's the end of April. And then we would want so between, the reason there's 2 weeks between here and here is that the engineer was suggesting just a week, but we know with the community, we want to make sure we get good word out to the community, that we have a Leica tome edition that's going out in between, that we make sure that we give plenty of time for island feedback, community feedback. So we put a 2-week window in here. And so the end April means that is the preferred design has been specified, and they now then have 8 weeks more to work on it. And then 4 weeks until the final. So, and that's what the RFQ says. So that's what we're thinking about here. So the 60% is the conceptual, and another public meeting to go over those diagrams and basically talk about, okay, of these, what would be the preferred design? And then this is what I was saying, and by the end of April, we have a progress report due at the end of April. And basically at this point, we're caught up with the milestones. So we have mid-August now, and people are back in town, so that was good. We have, middle of summer when the most people are here for input. And we have given basically the 12-week window between the conceptual to the actual recommendation with all of the attendant drawings. This is going to cover parking, pull out, pedestrian safety, etc. And then we have plans, everything goes to RCO by the end of September. Although the final report's not due till the end of December. But
if we can finish it up and have it done and move on, I think that's okay. And it's good to give yourself some space.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what we have for the consultants is, for them, everything is done by the end of August. So if people feel comfortable, people feel okay with these timelines, I can provide these to Andrea tomorrow. Any other changes?
Looks great, Lane.
Wayne, do you have anything? Does this look like because remember, this is not a construction project. It is just a feasibility study. So does this seem to be realistic to you?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, no, I understand. I'm following everything that's going on here, and I understand that it's really a conceptual design at this point. One thing I wanted to throw out again is that I guess you've got that RFQ out for the cultural resource part, and I don't want to take work away from Garth, but in any case, to reiterate, we could do the preliminary letter that goes to the DHAP and the tribes. All I would have to know, and I could create the map. It's a map that would show the APE, area of a potential effect. Now that would be obviously the dock and possibly, just some disturbance on the beach, but it would also include staging areas. So if you're able to use the county parking lot across the street for staging, that all clears the way to simplify things. And again, we can just state in that preliminary letter that, hey, we're not going to do anything with the Beach Store Cafe building. We're not touching it. It's, we're going to use the parking lot for staging materials, and it'll just fall off the list of concerns. It won't be on there. And the tribes don't care about the building. They only care about their cultural resources. So getting those letters back from the tribes, and the DHAP responds almost within days. Like usually it's the next day he checks his Rob Whitlam down in Olympia checks his records and gets back to me right away and says, no, we either do or we don't have any concerns. So that's something we could do and save just, I know if the budget is tight, but I don't know how much Garth would budget for sending out that letter, but it's something that we could do.
Okay. Okay, that sounds great. Thanks, Wayne. We will look at that, and I can send you what I provided to the to RCO for the map showing in the perimeter is basically what I would presume the area of.
Conceptual design. Well, yeah, I would probably create another map to
Oh,
really
absolutely.
specifically show area of potential effect, with a big call out. This is where and anything else that's going to be impacted as far as soil disturbance, and then obviously anything to do with the culture, the
Oh, fabulous.
building.
Yeah.
But yeah. So,
Okay, then
but I'd be
okay.
happy to work on that, and I could dedicate time here right away.
Okay.
If somebody, you and I, or somebody else, could work on, back and forth, or all of us. I mean, through email exchange. Say,
Yeah.
look, this is
Mhm.
this is what this is what I've come up with so far. Check it out. Does it make sense to you?
Perfect. Okay,
So
that
I
sounds
could do
great.
that. Yeah, I can do that in my free time.
Okay.
Yeah. And Wayne, just for a little background info, when we put our application in, one of the things that held up our contract was that RCO does a pretty heavy review of all of the grants, and in their high level review of the grant, they said that because the beach store was there, that cultural resources study is absolutely required for us.
That's interesting, because really I mean, if you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, meaning that you've sent the letter out to the Department of Historic Preservation in Olympia, and they respond and say, look, it doesn't look like you're going to be impacting that store at all,
Mhm.
period, you're done.
Yeah.
It's not an issue. So I think getting back to RCO and just showing that we've
Yeah.
done that. We've dotted our
Awesome.
I's and crossed
Okay.
our T's. We've
Okay.
done the complete process. I would
Sounds
suspect that
good.
would satisfy them. That's my
great. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And
Okay.
there's no downside to doing that. We wouldn't impact if we still had to do it. We still had to do it. So
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, that's a document that you get back from the Department of Historic Preservation. You get a letter, an official letter. You obviously file it in your file, and it's part of the whole process.
Great.
So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's great. Thank you. I will get that to you then later today, and that map, and we can.
Yeah, I suspect I could probably come up with something by early next week. But you know what I need is the most up-to-date preliminary conceptual design, and you've probably sent that out. I haven't had a chance to look through everything, but and do you want who should I work closer? All of us, or as far as updating on, hey, here's what I've got going so far. So I'm suspecting by Monday I should be able to have something.
Send email to all of us. Sometimes
Okay.
it's a blind CC. If we're communicating with consultants, oftentimes it's a blind CC. But we do.
Right. Okay.
We're always with the idea that if everyone's in the loop. You might not hear back from everybody, but you at least.
Yeah. No.
I have a
obviously,
grant group now that includes the so Dave. So the group that I always send email to, you can just look at that and go, okay, that's the 5.
okay.
6 actually. Yay!
Yeah.
Number 6. Yay! Of people who are actively who do look at everything that you send, and typically everybody at least sends a good back so that they read it.
So you have an email group. Yeah, that would be great. And maybe even by this afternoon, if Lane, if you and I can, or at least make sure that I have the
Yeah,
most current.
Exactly. I can send you.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
Because, and then we'll add you to, I think what we'll end up doing is adding you to the Prism access, because it probably is helpful for you to see what our whole project area is about. But Prism, of course, is totally public, so you can do all the project search, which is how I found comparative projects that sound more like what we're doing. There are feasibility studies in there. Again, they tend not to map directly to ours, but close enough that we can see what kind of project documents they have, and that's helpful. Okay, and then the other thing, Mary, the contract. Don't think I'll have a chance to work on that today, but I'll be traveling tomorrow and be able to work on the train. So I want to get that to you as soon as possible, so you can ask Dana to
Yeah.
look at it.
Dannon she is in Australia right now. She won't be back until the 25th. So,
So
Yeah.
Okay, but I will start working on that.
mhm.
Okay, fabulous. And then Wayne, you need to hop off. It's 10 till.
I will wait till I can walk over to the staff meeting in 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I'll stay here as long as I can.
Okay. So let's see. So this is, let me just see what else we have for our agenda. Oh, the other things I talked to about, so we got the milestones done. We got the definition of 30% design documents done. So I talked to Andrea about, I said, so we have 3 buckets of money, and it's like 90,000 for the engineering and 10,000 for the marine, et cetera. I said, is that kind of locked into those buckets? And she said, no. So we spent less on marine, which we will, because we went into this with a higher standard of marine survey than we actually needed. So we budgeted for more. She said, you have 2 choices. She said, you can, if it turned out, say, engineering did cost more, we could swing that way. She said, if you're coming down to wrapping up and you still have money left over, we could add more tasks, typically can add more tasks to use the money and not have to give it back. And I said, well, we'll think about that, but that would be, it could very well be, we'll be ready to just wrap up and say, here's some money back. We under budgeted. But she did assure me that the money we spent on the advertisement, which was not in our budget, I honestly we hadn't selected that as our standard before we went into this. And so we can divide that, those advertisements into the 3 contractor budgets, because that's what we had to spend to get those contractors. So not to worry, that money will have a place in the budget.
Yeah, and Lane, I noticed though that we do have money budgeted for advertising for public outreach, and that is also outreach. Is you have to outreach to the public to get your contractors.
Interesting point. So I think, so we'll look at that and decide. We talked to Danielle, our treasurer at Leica. Wayne is Danielle, and see if there's a preferred way to do that. At this point, I think absorbability, we have more absorbability in those 3 buckets than we do in the outreach, because we will want to pay for that. We're talking about doing that mailing. We have, I think I had those 18 and 20. So that direct mailing to the house, all the property owners,
right,
north and south of the dock proposed site. So we do have some other things that we didn't think about originally. But the good news is that the money is there as a sort of a gross amount, and how we allocated it was helpful, but we're not held to that. To say, oh, wait a minute, you weren't supposed to spend 91,000, you were only supposed to spend 90,000 on engineering.
Yeah.
So good news there. Let's see. Okay, we got this. We reviewed this. Yay. The RFQs are out. The second advertisement went in yesterday. We were lucky to get the first advertisement. I don't know if you guys looked at my email, but the first advertisement was right up front center, right? It looked really official, like the only thing that's important in this newspaper is Lummi Island is looking for these people. The second one, the Monday one, got into the down below a bunch of other people court, and we're down in the corner. But we got front and center on the Sunday paper on the 5th. So, and I heard from at least one more firm, and the only thing we're a little short on is cultural resources. We haven't heard back from anyone else right yet besides Drayton. I've reached out to another firm that is some students who used to be at WWU. I say they're not students now. They were from WWU, so they were in this area. One of them is now in Eastern Washington, but the other one is south of here. And I sent them another message, and I'll call them because I didn't hear back from them. And the third one is a larger company. It's actually looks like a AMS. It's like an amalgamation of cultural resources people. So I'll call them because we're hoping to have 3 respondents in each area. But knew all along cultural resources was a pretty short list. You have to be on the Washington, the list of historic preservationists with Washington, and there weren't many in our region. So I reached out to all the ones I could find.
And if we don't have 3 contractors and we have diligently advertised,
Yes.
we still can award a contract if only one person applies.
So basically what happens with us, because there's not a specific guideline for nonprofits by the state, while we chose the advertising, we chose a high standard. Other than that, honestly, we are, as long as we did our due diligence, we are not bound to keep scrounging until we find 3. No, we have our outreach has been sufficient. You're right, Mary.
Yes, so let's just not worry about it.
And not worry about it. Not worry about it. We can now validate. I actually get affidavits from the newspaper that say we published. Okay. Let's see. So the one thing I did want to point out, I will reach out to Rod and say we will be closing the RFQs, but we'll be looking for review and input from you folks and give them a heads up on that, because obviously it's right around Thanksgiving, and so we'll want to do that.
Yeah, it's the week after Thanksgiving, so. But
Yeah, but I mean-
I think we want to, and I think we will probably should set up like some potential times to get together to do a review. And I think we can do the review online, but it would be really good to include either Rod or Bennett. And I really hope that Wayne can be there and Roger can be there. And all of us. So we really all need to like try to be able to carve out some hours during that week to do some talking. So it would be maybe good for people to put in their potential schedules that week. So maybe like set up a doc and just show everybody's calendar for that week. Or I don't really.
Sounds like a good strategy.
Yeah, like an inquiry of availability. Okay, so on Monday, I'm, which is the day everything is due. I will be available at this time, and at least we could figure out what would work.
I know that Mary Livy does that as that Google Doc. So we could probably set up a Google Doc and people could
yeah.
Okay. Let me see.
Yeah. I can try to do that.
If you can look at, maybe ask Livy if she put blocks. I mean, I think she just put like headers, and you just went in and said, "Am available or not available." Yeah. Yeah, if you can ask Libby about that, because like I say, I'll be wrapped up for the most of today, getting ready for return. And tomorrow I'll be in transit, but on return.
Okay.
Okay. So then revolving loan, Mary, and duck out anytime, Wayne, whenever you. So
Yeah.
Mary,
Yeah, go ahead. I think I will cut out at this
Okay.
point. So Lane, I guess we'll be probably in contact a little bit later this
Okay.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's by email. Okay, sounds.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so Leica has set up, Danielle has set up a separate account for our, for the dock project. We have opened there is an open account at WECU that will be a completely separate dedicated account where all funds going in. So that was one thing that had to get done. The next thing that we're working on is coming up with a promissory note agreement for lenders. And we have a person who is a lawyer on the island who has volunteered to draft the document. And it's Carl Malin.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and so he is going to review the contract and just kind of get, a loan doc. Jim and I will be investing some money into that account to help get it kicked off. And so we're thinking between 5,000 and 10,000 will go in there. Because I truly believe in the project, and we can afford it at this point in time. But I do need to make sure that Leica has a signed agreement. So as soon as we get something, I will put some seed money in.
Wow, Mary.
No, it's just because I know that this is a good project. I know that it will work, and so we'll make it go.
Okay. So, and one of the things that Carl had talked about, Chris, was instead of, and I mean, we didn't talk about that much, but I think we were sort of on the lines of, well, we'll people will offer money for say a year, and then we'll dip into it and such. And Carl's suggestion was more of a revolving, like you'll see that we would be having an invoice, say in April, and you'd in essence sign up for the April slot. And we would need, so I mean, it's something like $20,000, say, if you divided the contract over 9-month period. And so if we had, several people who put in money and said, okay, that's the April invoice paid, then they would get all their money back. And then you could say, who could sign up for May? I mean, that's kind of the idea, Mary. Is that what it sounded like?
It would be that, or it would be, okay, so we need to have this much at this point, which investors can pop in with this much at this point in time. And then your money would only be tied up for maybe a month.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, we'll have to, and so that's what I want to talk with Carl about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that part of this was trying to reach out, find enough people that we had a revolving, not only just a revolving fund, but revolving people who had contributed to that fund.
Yeah, but the thing that's there's risk to the loan, the people that are making the loan, when you have a long-term loan, a longer-term loan, and then, but there's risk to us if we don't have the funds in hand.
Exactly.
So I think that, you know, it's going to be like a balance, and I think that the LICA board will probably need to decide on which balance of risk is going to be the comfortable thing.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So we're okay. Okay, great, Mary. So we'll.
So
And then you had a couple of other folks who had said they were interested and you were going to get back to.
yes,
Okay.
yes, no, the people that I have expressed interest in, I probably shouldn't pop
Oh,
people's names. I'd rather not do that on a recording, so.
Yeah.
But I think it will be good just to have, and the more I think about it, like probably like 5,000 just sitting in there. So that if we have like little things where we need to get something done, that would probably be a good thing.
Okay.
But that's kind of where we're at there. One thing I am going to say is that I am not going to continue to be the president of LICA. I am going to be stepping out of that role for my sanity. And so that just
Okay.
has to happen this year.
Yeah. Totally. So, speaking of which, did anybody have any feedback on the, I sent the LICA board, update. And the reason it's so detailed, Chris, I told Mary that again,
I think we
LICA.
lost Chris.
Oh, we did. Okay. Then.
Yep.
Anyway, so I told you this.
No, I'm here. I just,
Okay. Oh, good.
So it's so detailed about the whole procurement process because I wanted people on the board to be comfortable with, you know, they in essence, just yellow in yellow where it says that we may be required to certify that we followed something if the state or federal did not apply. Well, state or federal does not apply. Their minimal, sort of this minimal that RCO provided, we certainly can account for, but we can account for a higher standard. So we follow the standard for the block grants, the state block grants, and so we should be able to LICA can feel confident. Yes, RCO is not going to come back to you and say somehow you were in breach of contract because you didn't advertise enough. We will have evidence, especially this will be really good news if we end up with only 1 or 2 respondents that we did reach out and we did we did everything we could.
No, I think it's good, and to show them that we, you know, our stuff we are covering and doing the due diligence. There was one thing I questioned down here on the status of key tasks for the feasibility study. And in the one for progress on plans, task 1B, the second bullet point, anticipate scheduling the first blended town hall in February to solicit ideas and priorities. The word blended. Okay, what I wanted to figure out is it hybrid, or if it is hybrid, then, and if it's blended, then are we also engaging with during that town hall? Is it just the Lummi Island community, or is it other like county entities and all that? So I can see, like, so it could be hybrid / blended.
I'm going to say community meeting because it is not just the island. Yeah.
Okay, well, and then I think it just really needs to see then I don't,
I'll just
it's-
say,
well, if it is like, if we want to have a representative from the Parks Department at that meeting, if we want to have somebody from Public Works or the or Sat Paul's office, the county executive's office, like Tyler or somebody like that. I think that we need to define that. So that was that. So, because Leica needs to know like what we're going to be looking at too, and if we're inviting like First Nations people.
so
Okay,
is that what you're talking about?
yeah, I think that sounds good,
Okay,
and it would be, and that would. And that would be like done in a town hall format then. Is that correct, Lane?
town hall as
Okay.
We call it a town hall
Okay,
as a community and stakeholder meeting.
okay. Okay, because Leica needs to know that for their planning purposes. For getting stuff on their calendar, also arranging for a building, etc. So that's
Like, so I think say like to host.
mhm.
Move this up front. Oops. Okay.
Because that is something that, the board needs to be aware of, and that's actually a kind of a short deadline. So, but that's good. Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think it's good, and it would have to be in late February, I would hope.
It is, if we look back at our timelines, I think the RFQ says we got this from KPFF and they said input first public 8 meeting 8 weeks after first public meeting, end of March. So that would put the public meeting at the beginning of February. But I'll look at these. 8 weeks after. Well, let me see when we put the draft. We put the draft conceptual is middle of, isn't this it? Yeah, this is actually the middle of April.
Mm-hmm.
So then so I mean, these all along were estimates, but so this middle, the agency meetings and input mid-April, 8 weeks after first public meeting. And I just assumed if they started in January that the public meeting would be in. Okay, well, I just don't want to get our milestones all whacked out, Mary.
Yeah, I don't either, but I think we need to think about these things to keep it realistic.
Okay.
Because we could not do it in January because January is like his general, there would be a general meeting and that's their annual meeting.
Uh-huh.
But it could be at any date in February, but it's also it would be good to get it on the calendar ASAP, because like is putting their calendar together
Uh-huh.
by early December.
Okay. So we have draft design due in the middle of February. And I'm thinking then the draft design wouldn't be before the meeting. So that would put the first meeting at like the 22nd, third week of February.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's say. Okay, Mary, my brain, I have to go away and think about this a little
Yeah.
bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just look and make sure that that's still, if it was the middle of February, does everything still play out with those milestones?
It could happen at the beginning of February. Leica would just have to publicize it
Uh-huh.
in the tome in January. So we
Yeah.
just need to know that stuff. So we just need to be aware that, and we also probably need to start getting a venue arranged for it.
Right. Okay. I'm going to say early mid. Need to begin now.
Yeah. So Leica just really needs to be aware of that.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That was the one thing that just stood out glaringly for me on that one.
Okay. I'll have to bold that because then we'll make sure that people realize that's a commitment. Okay. 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 Then I'll go ahead and send this over out to everybody, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my plan was to just repurpose this as the newsletter and basically the tome article.
Yeah. The one thing that I think might be nice to put in the newsletter, probably not space in the tome article, but you had said to put a little blurb about Wayne and
Yeah.
Roger. And it occurred to me that it might be good to put a little blurb about Dave and you, and even like Chris and I, we're kind of, both of us are kind of gnomes on the island just because of like length of time we've been here and also involvement in lots of things. But even though we're knowns, not everybody knows us too. And like maybe like who we are.
Well, that's a great idea. Here's the member corner.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and like, you know, and just a little bit of a statement about each person and like why we feel this is an important thing. But I think that would be, and also just to show that we are just people. We're not a bunch of, you know, we're just, all of us are just people, but we have, all of us have different reasons for wanting to see this happen.
Okay.
So I think that would be that, you know, that, because we've really never done that.
No, you're right.
And all of us, I think, come to this with different perspectives. Like Chris Chris is a boater, but he's also a first responder. And he knows, you know, all of us have that feel about building resiliency for the island. And, you know, we all have been there. And so I just think that it's important to
Okay.
have something like that. And we don't have room in the Leica art in the tome art.
No, but for the newsletter. Yeah, you're right.
But for the newsletter, I think that is a good contribution.
Okay, so we'll think about that in the next, my idea frankly on this newsletter was to do it, you know, similar to like the Brown Betty, where you have the body, but then you have a link to, hey, here's the whole newsletter. So
Mhm.
sort of the highlights of the newsletter, and then you download the PDF and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah,
So that's I was trying to repurpose what we already have going. But again, this we need to document for our grant as to how we continue to reach out to people.
yes.
But my brain won't be able to wrap around this probably until at least Friday. So
Yeah, no, don't, that's not something that's a hot priority, just
Okay.
tome article, and the stuff for the tome article looks like it's good stuff.
okay, so
And the other one question is on the link for the actual contract.
uh-huh.
I think we actually signed the contract on the 30th.
Okay.
And the other thing is, do you want, instead of having just a blank contract, do you want the signed contract? I don't know. It's probably the blank contract is okay.
I actually don't know what that what it does. I just took the one I had. I thought this was the final one I had and was signed. No.
No, that one's just the blank agreement, doesn't have the signatures in place.
Oh, okay. Then I guess I have to scare up where I have.
I have the link for the other one. I will
Okay, send that to
send
me.
to you.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
send that this morning.
Thank you. I didn't realize. Sorry. Okay. That's not Word. Where is Word? Here we go. Okay. Okay. Fix. Okay, yeah, if you can send that to me, Mary, because I want to get this off to the.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, I'll do it as soon as I get off of here.
Okay, doke.
Okay. I will forward it to you. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you all for your work. I was in and out there a little bit. I'm heading off island, but
Okay, doke.
thanks for all the work, everybody.
You bet.
Thank
be in
you,
touch.
Chris. All right. All
Okay.
right. Have a good travel, Lane.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be in touch, and yeah, we'll head off, take the train in the morning to Sacramento. I mean to Seattle. And then we'll
Yeah. Can I send you the draft copy of what I'm sending to Carl?
Oh,
Just
yeah,
for
that'd be
a
great.
review. Just I would like you to review the draft before I pop it in the mail to Carl.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna pop that to you too, because I have, it's, my email to him is written. So I will do that. So, okay, I will do that. I'm gonna start working on it as soon as I hang up, so
Okay, super. And the first, but send me that contract so I can put that on.
I'm gonna send that immediately too. Okay, all right. All right. Have a good trip.
Thank you. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.